how's progress coming along on Dateless?
So it got renamed to Gamma Coin. I
Gamma
actually
Coin?
made contact with a editor that maybe is useless, maybe will be really helpful, and he is doing a look over on my back cover blurb and my first chapter, which unfortunately, even though they're the most important chapters, are actually like the weakest writing in the whole book. So I'm going to see what he has to say about it as I wait on the new cover artist to finish, producing what I want. The majority of the book is done, like final edits done level.
Nice.
It'll be coming out this summer.
I want to dig here a little bit if I can. I don't want you to go into anything where you'd have to give anything away. So if you say I can't say that, just no problem. But you said you find that to be the weakest writing in the book. When you say weak writing, do you mean you're happy with the story being presented? You just don't like the way it's presented, or you?
It isn't a strong hook because it starts on a rather subdued and normal plot beat. Because a lot of people will say, like, yeah, you got to start the story in a sense of normalcy before you take it into the extreme journey. Because the plot of Dateless basically is kid gets in a bar fight and kills the guy he was feuding with over his girlfriend accidentally. He meant to hurt the guy, but he didn't mean to kill the guy. And he goes on the run because he's not going to jail for 20 years. He would rather escape the city and go live, with the free people.
Right.
Because there is an enclave of people outside of direct control of the government.
Mm-hmm. And have a good night, Kiko.
Have a good one, Kiko.
Good night, Kikomon.
So the problem is the bar fight is chapter 3. Chapter 1 is basically him having, the kid having some friction with his mother, absentee father, a not healthy relationship with his girlfriend at the time, and going to the bar. And then chapter 2 is the guy he gets in a fight with meeting Detective Blackstone and getting motivated to go to that bar. And then in chapter 3 is the fight. So
gotcha.
I've buried the hook, which is kind of a problem,
Yeah, so you would call chapter 3 is about where the inciting incident itself takes place?
Yep. So I do think that there's nothing implicitly wrong with the first 2 chapters because the characters are pleasant, they're interesting, the world gets explored more. There's plenty of content to enjoy. If it was like a middle chapter, it just doesn't grab you and refuse to let go.
Right.
Like I kind of need it to. But then again, it's book 2 in a series. So you're already somewhat invested in Bastion and Detective Blackstone,
Right.
Yeah, especially with the first chapter, you're setting a lot of plot points up, and you're also trying to grab the reader. So if something's not working with the first chapter, that's always kind of like one of the heaviest places you need to focus on as a writer. If something ain't working, you need to fix it.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to do is almost cheating because in chapter 1 of Gamma Coin, book 2, it actually opens with Kite, the criminal, watching a news report of something else happening in the city. And the goal is that he's interpreting the reporting through the psychoanalysis lens that his father taught him, because that's one of the interesting things about him. He's what's called a mind breaker, which is, government puff up talk for someone that can rip someone apart mentally. So he's analyzing the reporting on an event. And that's supposed to build some intrigue in the setting and kind of set some expectations about the level of crime and the crackdowns and so on, but also show it as him. But book 3, which I've already drafted, is about someone from the event that he's seeing the reporting on. So I'm trying to be really clever right there.
Yeah. Now, Now you said Mindbreaker. Do you mean Mindbreaker as in someone who's really good at reading people and interrogating, or do you mean cybernetically?
I'm talking about the standard tricks of psychoanalysis of cold reading and manipulation and interrogation, and ostensibly the job is they're a one-man kills team because they can be inserted and talk their way into a group and then destroyed from the inside. I possibly don't push that as much as I could, but it's really hard to just create that as someone who isn't a trained psychologist.
Yeah.
James,
Yeah.
I just heard this book and I'm already hooked. Okay.
Well, I try to cover that in the back cover blurb, which I think I'm going to cope super hard and say the hook is in the back cover, and you just have to deal with the first 2 chapters. Because the back cover is like, here, let me pull it up real fast. Psychologist, hypnotist, con man, liar, mind breaker. The American government has invested a lot into the techniques and tricks of psychological manipulation, both on other people and on the self. Only the most loyal soldiers are eligible for the program, but one of them has passed on the knowledge to his son. Just weeks before the draft, Kite finds himself on the run, wanted for murder. One step away from a rogue mindbreaker, he is forced into a desperate plan to insert himself into a gang powerful enough and connected enough to smuggle him out of the city and out from under Eve's surveillance. He just has to pull off everything his father ever taught him and do it fast. Detective Blackstone is tasked with bringing him to justice. It was a congressman's son that was attacked, after all. He just has to do it before the big guns get sent in to clean house.
And Blackstone could catch him. Blackstone's no idiot.
Blackstone's the man for the job because he's the one that sent the setup is like on a random house call. He meets the congressman's son and badgers him for being a loser. And he's just like, go live life. You like this idol that you are obsessed with and playing your games. Why don't you go to her concert? Get out from your mother's apartment. You're 23. Good God. And guess what? He goes to the concert, and that's where he gets brained and hospitalized. So the father, the congressman, is just like, you're the one that sent my son there?
Yeah,
So
that's
it's a
going to
bit of
go
a
over like a
misadventure.
Martin church. Yeah, now I have a odd issue with my inciting incident because the inciting incident that I'm working on is kind of like you're quarter way in the book before it happens. It's not right at the beginning, but it's picking up from where the first one left off, and time passes, and I needed to cover what was going on to build up to the incident.
To a certain degree, I think that depends on the genre of book you're reading, because depending on what type of story, there's a different sort of tolerance with the reader and how far they're willing to go before the inciting incident really kicks off. If it's over 100 pages or something like that, that's usually kind of like whenever interest starts to dwindle a bit. If nothing's going on, then usually more and more are going to start dropping off. But if it's like 30, 50 pages or something like that, that's more of a reasonable tolerance in my eyes.
Yeah, I just have to find a way to make it flow well. So, the pacing, I think, is the primary concern.
Maybe I can get away with it because I'm a short story writer, but I don't know if it's a terrible habit or a good habit, but I kind of start off everything with the inciting incident.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not a problem. It depends on the characters and the incident. Like Faceless, my first book, it technically opens with Detective Blackstone walking to the crime scene.
Mm-hmm.
He's at the crime scene on like page 3 or something and exploring, how is there an unidentified corpse? How's that possible? There's nothing wrong with that, but other stories will, like Wheel of Time. The inciting incident is the destruction of their village, and that's 150 pages into the first book or something.
It takes a solid 80 pages for something to really happen. Up until that point, it's really just buildup of tension.
Okay, so when building up lore, how long should like the prologue of a lore be in a book? Do you guys think?
Build up a what? There?
I don't know,
Lore
because
doesn't
lore
matter.
building kind of it happens along the way quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, some things you might have to just info drop at the beginning and say this is the setting of the world and how it works, so people aren't lost.
Depending on how unique your rules of your world are, really. If it's something similar to ours, but just point out the unique differences along the way.
Just depends on how batshit the physics are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that
yeah,
I kind of had to
in Shadow
introduce
of the
bit by
Conqueror.
bit.
Shadow of the Conqueror had to explain instantaneously that it's a floating islands world.
Okay. Yeah.
Because nothing makes sense if you don't understand that. But that's, in my opinion, that's actually a flaw of the book, because stories are about characters. You really don't need to explain much of the lore. You need to make the reader care about the character as fast as possible. Lore can be a means to an end, but the goal is caring about the character and
So long as
understanding
the world
what they
building
can do.
isn't obstructing the active dialogue between characters, I
Sure.
agree.
Well, Jose Hernandez says, my incident is the main character, in order to numb the pain of the memory of losing her mother, drinks herself stupid and crashes into the newly constructed church. Is that a bit of a hook or what? A little overkill?
I mean,
All right,
to be
Jose, you
honest,
better write that story. Go.
Do it, Jose,
Yeah, Jose.
or else.
I want to see some proof. I want to see a PDF. Show us.
So it sounds like your newest book's going to be a continue on to your first one. Then, is that right, Crate, or is this kind of separate?
yeah, Gamma Coin is a sequel to Faceless. It's Bastion Blackstone 2. I do plan to turn the Bass, like, completely seriously. I plan to write 30 to 40, maybe even 50 novels in Bastion. Let alone how many I plan to write in that timeline. Because Ship of Fools is in the Bastion timeline. It's just 1,000 years later.
And that's the book I'm reading next. I'm currently on Twin Sons of Corolla, but I got it right here, ready to go afterwards.
So, Crate, is your books designed that you can pick them up anywhere in between the series, or do you have to start at the first one to understand?
It is like the Dresden Files.
Okay.
Every
Sorry, I
book
don't
is one
mean to-
contained crime, but the relationships are going to be evolving over the series.
Gotcha. Not to interrogate you or anything. I was just curious.
No, it's
Well,
fine.
Jose Hernandez said, Mr. Craig, I wanted to ask you, I have everything I want to have in my first book. I got the beginning and the ending completely in mind, but how do I build up to keep the people reading? I saw you answered him, but that was actually one of the coolest questions I've seen from him so far. I had to showcase it. And so you're going to be, this is one of the things you'll be addressing on your channel, I see. And yeah, do you know how many videos a week you're planning to put out?
So for now, I'm actually at a rather reasonable, theoretically, pace of one video every other day. And I can do that for a while, and then I might start running out of subjects.
Yeah, until all of a
Because-
sudden your head fills up with a whole bunch of new ones.
Well, the meat and potatoes of the channel is supposed to be book reviews, and I can probably only finish a book worth reviewing every other week. So my asymptotic release rate may end up being one video every 2 weeks.
Cool.
Like, I'm probably not, like, Pride and Prejudice will probably get a video because I'm going to start uploading about the book club so that people can follow along and read and join in a live stream at the end of every month. But like the book I'm going to read after that is Another Note, the Los Angeles BB Murder Cases, which is set in the Death Note series, but written by Nisio Isin. I have no idea if this will be worth making a video about. I'm just damn curious because I think Nisio Isin is a good author, and Death Note is one of the most interesting crime setups ever created, in my opinion. But I don't know if it's going to be any good. So even though this will take me about a week, actually not even half a week, it's not even 200 pages. It's going to take me time. but that doesn't necessarily equal a book review video, right?
Right.
It sounds like a fun experiment, at least.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
definitely can't do a video on the book I'm going to read after that because I'm going to be reading The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt, which I think will help me write stories, and I can reference that in the future. But I'm not the guy to pick apart Jonathan Haidt.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Back when I was in school, they want me to read a book and do a report. I hated it. I didn't want to do it. Now we're all doing that to a degree on purpose. What the hell?
Now it's
It's
great.
because the cause is different.
A.S.
Because we
Brunner
care.
says, because what?
Because we care.
Don't
We're
tell
also
people
not
that.
doing an
You're
essay
giving away our
on the
secrets.
Scarlet Letter.
This is true. Or what was that called? Great Expectations. Like an endless Seinfeld episode without the comedy. Silas Marner was fairly decent, though.